In this podcast, I'm joined by JJ Ducart and Brian Clary, and we're talking about prep for the season. We talk about food plots and some last-minute liquid fertilizer applications to help boost those plots to get ready for the season. We talk about some early season strategies. What's the best way to tag out opening weekend? And we talk about what the bucks are doing right now, what our reveals are showing, and how you can be successful in the coming weeks.
The Deer Society podcast is brought to you by Illusion Hunting Systems, Onyx Hunt, Reveal Cellular Cameras, 10-Point Crossbows, Prime Archery, G5 Broadheads, Osseo Gear, Raw Frozen Scents, and HHA.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We are nearing the best time of the year. Fall is just about here. We are in the end of August now, beginning of September, and hunting season is just upon us. Some seasons opening up here within the next week or so. Ours still a couple weeks out, but we've been grinding, getting ready. So just going to talk about, again, some updates, what's going on right now, what we're looking forward to this season. So JJ, Brian, where are we at? What's going on?
Well, I saw Brian just about break this chair over here, and I thought, maybe Novik should build some chairs. It'd be a nice, solid setup. So we're hanging Novik stands right now. So that was my intro. I don't know if that was good.
I like it.
Nice little Novik's call out.
Get Dylan on the phone.
Yeah, hanging tree stands. We're going to be doing a lot of spraying next week. Food plots are looking phenomenal this year. Actually had rain, which is nice. It's a good step. And we're going to be boosting them. So we're doing the double down method. Root booster, foliage field plus plot work next week will be huge.
Yeah, hit all the plots.
And hanging stands, like really just getting everything setting those traps, because it's time to kind of get that wrapped up and let the deer kind of settle in as those plots, really come in strong. Final water work, water hole work, trail work. Still scouting, getting some miles on the tires at night when we can, and through the glass, got some pretty awesome loophole binoculars now that are probably the best set I've had in a long time. So we've been rocking those and getting some great little bit of footage, but seeing them real well in the binos and the reveals. Reveals are rocking. So getting everything ready. Washing up my gear, phasing out the gear. We've been using it for a lot of studio stuff, so I was joking yesterday, gosh, I have to phase this stuff out and get that Osseo hung up. So it's time.
Yep.
Season will be here. Big bucks are on the radar. What do you got, Clary?
Reveal's been out for a couple months now, probably a month and a half. Oh, phone's still on.
That's actually a buck notification.
Buck notifications, midday.
Another 2-year-old walking right by.
Well, that's the thing, is the reveal's been out a couple weeks now, and literally every day new deer are showing up. So it's good to see that they're starting to break free of some of the bachelor groups a little bit. I mean, they're still hanging in those bachelor groups, but breaking free into new properties, seeing new deer. Ag is pretty heavy right now, so when you're going to find big deer, you're going to find them in the ag for the most part right now. That being said, food plots, they're growing strong, fast this year, and that is going to be a huge draw come 2-3 weeks from now as some of these bean fields come down and the corn starts to dry up.
Right on. Talking about food plots, so you mentioned going to double down next week, really hit them with the foliage fuel and root booster. What does that look like? So are you going to every one of the plots? How are you going in there, and just talk me through that? I think some people could get some more understanding there and how you support your plants now that they're established.
Yeah, and the way that we have most of our plots set up are, around that quarter acre size. Some of them are bigger, but what we're doing is we're hitting the root booster and the foliage fuel plus at the same time in the same tank, giving us just one more trip out to the land to really solidify those plants as they grow into maturity. But using the proper amounts is going to be the most key. Having each bottle pre-measured to that quarter acre, knocking them both in. The plant is gaining so many different nutrients and minerals from especially that foliage fuel plus, just anything with depleted soils. It's really helping that plant gain the nourishment and hit that maturity level. So as the season hits, you got a nice lush green food plot. So we're 3.5 weeks out from opener here. Food plots are going to be hitting right around mature. Those first plants will be hitting maturity right as the season opens. So be a big draw for us to, one, do inventory, and two, be able to hunt over.
Yeah, in the past couple years, we've had such bad drought that we really relied on those liquid fertilizers to, grow those plants for us with minimal moisture. But this year we have, like I said, we've been fortunate. We've had a lot of timely rains. It seems like we're getting one about every week, which has been
That's perfect too.
Perfect. So we're doubling down, and that's one of the reasons we're just going for it on a single pass, just because the plants are excelling and looking so great. So we're just going to shoot them one time with the root booster foliage fuel. Now, one thing we're doing differently with the perennials is we can actually drive over those clovers and chicory. So we can fill a big tank, say we pre-measure, we got 4 plots that are all 1/4 acre. We pre-measure, have a bigger tank. We can just drive over, those easy greens plots, and it won't affect the growth or kill the plants. But for the brassicas, we are hand spraying using our backpack sprayers and 4-gallon tank sprayers. So just trying to preserve a little bit more plant. If you run over brassicas, they will break and die. So, a couple different methods, and that'll be our final food plot prep. And really, it's all about strategy. So, it's getting pretty excited. We're shooting our bows every morning. Showing up at the office, flinging a few arrows with the primes. One little thing we're doing there is we're really stretching out that distance. So we're shooting back at our 65-yard back wall of the shop and fine-tuning any little flaws in our form or in our bows and getting that dialed. And then when we go up to that 20-yard range, it's right on. So that's been the process lately.
Watching those patterns tighten from 65 every day is a rewarding thing, though.
Yeah, I think this time of year, it's all about repetition, just getting those reps in, practicing that form, just visualizing what you need to do, because all hell goes out the window when, that big buck's standing in front of you. So, like, the more repetitions you can get in right now, practice, the better off you are. What are you seeing on the reveals right now? Are you seeing a lot of bucks? Are you seeing a lot of consistency? Where are you seeing bucks? What's that telling you?
I'm just trying to break into your reveal app so I can see more bucks.
Oh, that one's there's a lockbox on that.
Close. There's one more character we need to on that password. We'll get it.
No,
it's like the Da Vinci Code around here.
Right. Well, where some of these properties are situated. I mean, we're like, my family farm is half mile plus from any egg. We didn't have bucks for anything coming June and most of July. We started seeing 1 and 2 year olds show up late July. Now we're getting the 3-year-olds more consistently and new ones every day. So as they start to move through those ag systems and venture out into the timber a little more, this is when we're going to start seeing the bigger ones show up, which is really exciting time of the year for us.
Yeah, I think every property is different. So you got some that bucks are there, bachelor groups are there. You got the right cover or food source or whatever they like. This time of year, it seems like they're out in those open areas and little fingers and patches and swamps and whatever. Not so much big timber. That's just what I'm seeing. It's not the case everywhere. And then other properties where it just seems like a lot of does, just does, fawns, yearling bucks, small bucks. But based on past history on those areas, like big bucks will show up. So it's kind of a waiting game, but also knowing which properties you could maybe target early in the season, focus on that early, and then just let that shift happen in October and kind of adjust with it. So that's my mindset.
Yeah, a lot of shifting is going to be happening here. Yeah, I was talking to a buddy the other day, and he's like, man, I don't have anything on the farm. There's 0 pictures of bucks. Like, it's brutal. And I had to remind him that he makes that same phone call the same time every single year.
Every year.
And then
Screenshot it.
And then it wasn't 3 or 4 days later. He's like, oh, look at this buck. Oh, well, here's a new buck that showed up, So lots of shifting going on, and that will continue to happen. Bucks will continue to shift, and as you get closer to the season, I know that there's a ton of guys out there right now that already have their deer picked out for the year, and a lot of changes in the next 3 weeks or so, and even moving forward. But yeah, seeing the same things. Brian, I got some of your target bucks over on mine that
You do.
I'll show you. I'll show you when I pull up on the tailgate here, September 17th probably. But no,
I need to get into that damn app.
in all seriousness, no, I'm kind of honestly experiencing the same thing. I mean, there is a ton of standing corn around where we're at, and not a lot of buck activity, nothing consistently at this point at all. But that'll change. Bucks are, like you said, JJ, in some random places right now. Apple trees, there's a lot of activity around apple trees. We have a good apple crop in some certain spots right now. So have had a lot of activity on apples here recently. One thing that I have noticed is kind of interesting. I call this one buck. He's got to be the loneliest deer in Minnesota, because he comes out in the same spot, the same food plot every single night. But he is the only deer there, always. Like, there has never been another deer on that camera except him. And I know this spot will get really, really good later in the year, and we set it up for that. It's a spot that maybe we've talked about before, that is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's in basically a big CRP field. But that spot will just continue to get better, and especially during the rut will thrive. And then late season, we already have that food source established. Food plot is looking great. But I have to laugh every time I got to name this deer. He's just a 1-year-old little buck. But man, every night there he is out there, just proud as hell, on that food plot, but never another deer with him.
Yeah, and I know you're getting some decent bucks, or have had some pictures of some older ones. I don't know if you want to call them lumpy or whatever you want to call that buck. What's a pattern like that? Are you still getting that old one?
No. So interestingly enough, there's a deer that we know very, very well, and we call him Lumpy. And he is 8 years old this year, and showed up, and he looks the same as he has for the last, several years, but he's just gray in the face and just looks old, gnarly. He's a cool buck. Like, I hope that somebody gets to harvest him this year, because he's really, really cool. Not a giant by any means, but just a legend. And he was there quite a bit, kind of same place that he always is, right? Early season, this time of year, in velvet, and was consistently there for a handful of days. And now I haven't had a picture of him in, a week or two. I think that's kind of normal. I do think that, we see these patterns and these shifts this time of year, but I do think that some of these bucks or these bachelor groups are on cycles too. It seems like, this part of the summer, you'll get a bunch of pictures of bucks, 3, 4, 5 bucks in the morning. And then you might not see them again. But then 5, 6, 7 days later, here's that same group of bucks, and they're back through there. And then same thing. So I think, as much as deer are stuck tight to, summer patterns, and we think that they don't move a lot, I do think that they kind of go through some cycles, and they kind of range around from spot to spot. I don't think they're obviously moving a lot during the daylight, and daytime, because it's hot. But I think that, it's more sporadic right now than anything.
Yeah, I would say one camera that I have out that's in a spot that does have a lot of daylight activity is that apple tree that's loaded. All the branches are sagging down, deer are jumping up into it, and that's does and fawns, bachelor group bucks, like middle of the day. They must be bedded right next to that. There's a little water hole there too, but that's the type of spot. Tiny little easy green spot, apple tree in the middle, water, getting bucks during daylight just to jump, stand out of bed, walk a little bit, grab some food, and head back in. It's the reason why I ask you about that lumpy buck is because there's one I got my eyes on right now, and it seems like sometimes those bucks kind of hang out by themselves, like is Lumpy by himself. Because this other buck I'm watching, it seems he's not with other deer. It's not like a picture of bucks come through. It's like him or not him. And it's just a weird, he's like a solitary.
Yeah, that's interesting. That Lumpy buck, I think he's normally like that too. He's not bachelored up right now with other bucks or bachelor grouped up. He is by himself most of the time when I see him. And thinking back, it's not really like he hangs out with a bunch. He's ever hung out with a bunch of other bucks, at least for the past several years that I can remember. That's kind of interesting.
I mean, good and bad. Good that he's by himself. So if you're going in after him, you're maybe not bumping a bunch of deer if there's a big group of bucks together. But it's hard to pick out what's that one buck doing tonight. What's his pattern? Because I don't have a good pattern on the one I'm watching for opener. So trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. The other thing you were saying on the apple trees, I know that plot where you've been seeing them a lot, and that water hole being key. This time of the year, hot days, water cannot be overlooked when you're doing summer inventory. I've got a few cameras right now over water, and almost every daylight picture is on those water holes. I mean, these are little larger water holes, but they continually are hitting that at noon hours.
Yeah.
Another thing cool thing, you just put in some water holes. You didn't use the tarp method. You kind of packed in clay and stuff.
Yep.
Got the water hole set. A lot of bare dirt around. We're talking about you're going to put easy greens around them, try to get that in, but that's tough to germinate this late in the year. So rye, kind of get that root base so it doesn't wash out.
Right. And the way that we set those ponds up is when you're doing them without liners, you got to go in nearly a day or two after you get a good rain. So it's really mucky. So you can really tell or distinguish the difference between the clays and the sands and the lime and so on and so forth. But yeah, we packed the walls in, and then you got 4 or 5 days of dry after it, and it basically turns those walls into concrete after that clay is solidifying. And we had one rain after that night. Every one of the ponds are probably 8 inches deep now, which no filling needed. It's holding really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anybody that's got water holes, definitely fortunate this year. Rain's filling them up for everybody. So that's nice. And that's key. Water is key, not only early season coming up, all year round. We talked about a couple different spots where, what do we do? What do we plant? What do we do for food? And, I'm almost more of an advocate sometimes of like getting that strategic water in there. If you could only choose one or the other, obviously do both, but if you could only choose one or the other, man, sometimes some spots, depending on where the closest water is, that's a tactic that I think is just absolutely deadly and can be more advantageous to you than anything is just a solidly placed water hole, even if it's just a small one. And you can really benefit from it all year round.
From the ones that I've done, the ones that I see more deer at during daylight hours for sure are in the canopy, in the timber water sources rather than out in the edge of an open field. They're benefiting you in 2 ways. One, you don't have to fill them as often because you're not getting that direct sunlight. And 2, it's a lot cooler in there during the day, so the deer feel a hell of a lot more comfortable as they move into those water sources in the daylight hours.
Yeah, we're still experimenting with the best water hole type. We've done the dug-in tanks, some just holes, water holes where you dig the ground. One interesting thing that I'm kind of scratching my head with right now is, I got one set up in Wisconsin. I actually think a bear went into it this morning. I've had bears take baths in those things, which is not ideal. I don't know how bad they smell after that. Black bears will walk in there and just dip, and the whole water level pours out, and then the water, and then the tank's low. But it's the plot that I killed Andre in. It's a little easy greens with that water hole we put in the year that I shot him, and it's like that fresh water we put in straight out of the well. Filled up a tank, drove to that water hole, filled it up. Seemed like the deer loved that. The next year, my father-in-law thought it was a good idea to try river water, so he pumped out river water. It was an extreme drought, so we actually just brought water up to try to water the plot a little bit, filled up that tank, and it seemed like they didn't really like that so much. The river water, the kind of dark, and we always talk about, they like the mineral in the water, the dirty water. I don't know, something about filling it up with the river water just didn't go over too well. So I have not replaced the water this year, and it's been slow. And the bears are taking baths in there, so that's not ideal. But I think I'm going to go there whenever I can get there next and try to empty that tank, clean it out, and see if that's something, that's deterring them. Just interesting. Always learning, always trying to figure out what's going on. We know that if you don't have a proper way for animals to exit the water hole, that can be an issue too. They can take a long swim and never come out. And then the deer don't like that. So dead animals, little critters in there, not good. It's always have an escape route.
How many possums do you find in that one year?
Was not ideal.
Yeah.
But I think the optimum solution would be just a dug water hole with either a liner or a clay, and not so much the tank. But I think both work. I mean, water's water, but I think that would be a better solution long term.
Yeah. If you
banked.
And if you don't have clay, there's a lot of different avenues you can do with tarps and liners that you can easily put in for an inexpensive amount. But as Brian was saying, deadly water sources for early season.
No doubt. You know, one of the things I'm excited for this year, actually, and I say it every year, that we need to shoot some more does. And, you know, it's one of those things, and we've talked about it before. It's like, man, opener comes and you have a buck that you're after, and then you don't get them, and then pre-rut rolls around, and you don't want to shoot a doe because you're still after that buck. And it's like, by the time it's over, like, you never end up shooting as many does as you want.
Well,
I kind of feel like, for whatever reason this year, like, there's not a specific buck that I have picked out right now. Like, I'm going to go and shoot some does early, I think. Just fill the freezer up a little bit. Try to get Allie, maybe Adam on a buck too, but just get out there and shoot some does. I think that'd be fun this year.
See, when you go out there with that mentality, then you're going to have that cruiser buck come through. And
Yeah, I think as long as you keep it low key and you're not getting too deep with shooting those does, it's cool.
yeah.
I agree with you. I shot a couple late season last year, which was actually really fun too. So it'd be nice to have a tag for late season doe, but I do want to shoot one early. There's two I got my eyes on. One has one eye. She's been there since 2018 when I first started running camera. So how old is that deer? I don't know, but she's a blower. She's got one blue eye, and she might be a target. And there's also another one that's so old that has, like, her ribs always show every year. She comes back like I don't know. She's perfectly healthy, but you can tell like it's her. So I don't know if she's 100 or what, but we'll go for her too. Maybe she's 5.
There you go. Dude, I get that. I was in Oklahoma last year, and there's this one doe that I nicknamed Alice. And the last day of my hunt, she was going to get an arrow and ended up not. And I'm going back to Oklahoma this year, and we might just have a first doe hunt breakdown named Alice, because I promise you on the first night, if I see Alice, she's going to eat one.
She's going to eat one.
But, Brian,
Yeah.
early season tactic. What if there is one thing that you could do, you had to do right now to go in and kill a big buck opening weekend or early season, what would it be?
Establishing an early season pattern. Before the season starts, knowing what fields, because early season, easiest time to get a deer on a feeding pattern. Knowing where it's going, what time of the day it's going. We've got a couple guys that really excel in this that have been on the team in the past, and it seems like opening weekend every year, they're boom, 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 target buck is down. I would say the biggest advantage for a hunter is having that first 2 weeks. If you have a buck that's going to food every night, that pattern is crucial, and capitalizing on it, seeing where he's coming out from and cutting him off in between.
JJ?
Yeah, I like that strategy and being aggressively patient.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes
So
perfect
patient but aggressive, yeah. That early season window, if you can get on that pattern, that's huge.
sense.
We saw a lot of success as a team last year. We've talked about it on other podcasts. You see a bunch of hunt breakdowns this year. We had that 1 week stretch, and it wasn't opening week by any means, but it was like late last couple of days, September, first week in October. I think 4 tags were punched because patterns were strong on food, and guys got out there and got it done. So that's huge. Yeah.
Water also.
Finding that pattern, whether it's water's huge. I mean, these next week or so, really got to get our mock scrapes dialed in, whether it's a mock scrape or really just a community scrape that's still there, and get the cameras on it and make sure you're all set up with those reveals. Those are great spots that new bucks will start shifting into, and should get some good intel on those, and, just kind of getting everything prepped, and really, yeah, that pattern is huge.
Yeah, reveals go a long way in showing that pattern to you. And you don't have boots on the ground on these properties. those reveals, I mean, can't go understated on how important they are for early season patterning mature deer.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a big thing. I mean, you got to have a deer on a pattern to kill them early, I think, before that shift really starts to happen. Don't underestimate what that shift is, though. New deer will show up. But I will say this, as valuable as reveals are and trail cameras are, you can be just off the mark too with those, especially this time of year, and not be seeing everything that's there. Like I look at Jonah last year. Jonah shot that buck early. Now their season opens in Iowa a little later than ours, so it was like that first part of October. But Jonah had that target buck there, and he knew it was there, and he had several cameras out around that bean field, but he didn't know, like he wasn't getting pictures of that deer every single day by any means. And he'd get one here or there, one here or there. When he went and sat in there, that buck had come out and he shot him that night. Mm-hmm. That buck did not walk by any one of those cameras. And you know what he said to me after that? He said, that buck has been doing that same thing every night, I guarantee it. And he would just randomly get a picture of him, even though he was running cameras there. Mm-hmm. I think you can be off the mark by just a little bit and not seeing everything that's there too. So be strategic in where you put those reveals and try to get as much of that intel as you can. And it's impossible to get it all, obviously. Use them as a huge tool, but be strategic in how you place those to try to maximize that effort.
Yeah, I mean, some spots, the terrain funnels the deer in for you, so you really can put a camera in a spot that gets a lot of pictures of deer, whether they're all entering the corner, the inside corner of food plot, or hitting this community scrape of water, or whatever they're doing to try to enter that field. And then other areas, it's like a big CRP with just trails everywhere. It's like, well, how can I kind of aim this camera to where I can get as much as possible, knowing I get 3 trails out of 11, So, I mean, eyes on the deer is the best case scenario if you can actually watch that and do a little scouting without messing it up. That's huge, but, couple different cameras, if you can get them in the best possible spots, is next best. So every spot's different.
I will say this too, if you have a deer on a pattern and you go in to kill them, the next piece of advice, I guess, or the next thing that I would do is just make sure that I had everything dialed, especially scent control. You go in there, these deer have not been hunted or pressured, up until this point. You go in there and you have a really good opportunity to ambush them and kill them on that first sit. But the risk is also really high there. Like temperatures are hot, it's sometimes hard to stay cool. And you're going in there in a spot where they haven't been pressured for, a whole entire year. So just be surgical in your preparation, I guess, in your approach. Because as much as you may have a deer on a pattern, like that pattern can change very, very quickly. If that buck, especially if he's a big mature buck, figures out that you're hunting him.
Yeah, just staying cool. I know you think about Chris's hunt last year for that buck prime time and how hot it was this early season, 90 degrees over and over, which was awesome because then the buck wanted that water source, which helped him out quite a bit. But he was I remember him complaining about being up in the tree with one liner on and the sun's just baking on him. He's super hot and trying to be scent free and foaming down a ton, and actually got away with it a couple different times where the deer got downwind of him and didn't pick up on him. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, to stay scent free right now, if you can clear trails or have good access like that and kind of prep that now, obviously that's ideal. If you can't, just be real careful on how you're accessing and walking in, take your time. Maybe you pick a real windy day to hunt, if you feel like you really can't sneak in there. High wind day, 10, 15 miles an hour would be good and keeps you cool. Also, just a lot more movement out there visually, and scent can clear off of an area quicker. Cold fronts still important early season, even though they're not cold. High pressure front. Just try to keep putting those pieces of the puzzle together and stacking the odds in your favor and take advantage of it before the shift. That's kind of the main goal.
No doubt.
I like those early season windy days when JJ was talking about just sparked to my mind. That's when you get the sits without mosquitoes and without gnats in your eyes.
Those bugs, yeah. Well, that's how, when we were just talking about it with Adam's buck a little bit from last year. First week in October, real windy, but then it calmed down in the evening, and then all the bucks, start moving in. So, windy can be good.
Yeah, windy can be good for sure.
It calms down.
If it calms down. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. It was super windy. All those deer were skittish out in that food plot. And then as soon as it calmed down, boom, here came the bucks. I did see the other day, just yesterday, I think, somebody posted it was the first shed buck that I've seen, shed velvet buck here in this year. I'm sure they're starting. It's a little early yet, but
they do look dry. They're getting that lighter gray, kind of dried out look. Yep. Some of them, not all of them. Probably it's all going to happen at different times, but you can tell it's.
Yeah, I was out driving over the weekend, and the ones that I was seeing they still look pretty healthy velvet, but it's at that time where all that velvet's starting to dry out. I'm excited to see some hard antlers.
Definitely the summer coat peeling off some bucks, or deer in general. Some gray, more gray fur starting to show through. So
exciting!
I think I heard some acorns dropping the other day too.
I saw
kind of paused. I was like, "Hey, wait, what?"
I saw a couple of acorns in the area that we just put that pond in. I had bare dirt and a couple fresh acorns on the ground. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty early," but
the time is almost here.
It's here.
It's exciting. Well, we're going to keep everybody updated on what's going on, keep these podcasts rolling. We had a vlog that you just did, going through your kind of gear and what you do to what's in your pack, what you're shooting on your bow, some of those things that you do to prepare. So definitely check that out. That's cool. Kind of an insight into behind the scenes on some of the tools that JJ uses and we all kind of use here collectively, supported by a lot of our great partners and believe in those partners because we believe in their products, right? Mm-hmm. Also, coming up, exciting, brand new film on the Deer Society YouTube channel that we're going to be releasing. It's called Adam, and it is Adam Hellwig's quest for his first buck, and it's more about some of the adversities he's overcome in his life and some of the challenges that he's faced, and didn't grow up in a hunting family, but just started hunting a couple years ago and produced hunting content his entire life, and kind of his journey through all of that. And for his first buck, that's a pretty special one. Yeah. So definitely look out for that. That's going to be releasing on September 5th. So just after Labor Day there, going to release that film and then kick off hunt breakdowns after that. But definitely that film, Adam, is a special one. Watch it with your friends, your family, your kids if you got them. Great message there. So we're super excited about that. Look forward to that. Other than that, what else? Just getting ready for the season.
Yeah, get out there, boost your plots if you can right now. Maybe we should do a little giveaway on some fertilizer. That'd be good.
Just in the 2-pack.
Select the winner for the prime time system from the last podcast.
Yeah.
I had a winner selected. I'm going to have to go back and look.
Go look. While he's looking, why don't we do the word for this next giveaway? Boost. You can comment boost on YouTube or on any of our social media channels on the Deer Society, and we will go through and we'll pick a winner for a new fertilizer system.
Yeah, double down.
Yeah.
Double down on your fertilizer. Now's the time to do it. Those liquid fertilizers can really make your plots go to the next level. And we saw last year during that drought time, and this year plots are doing great. So just giving it that extra boost. Comment and we'll pick a winner. JJ, you got a winner for last week?
The winner, Chapman Cole. Chapman Cole is the YouTube comment that wins the primetime system. So they can reach out directly to Brian.
Brian Clary.
Brian, Brian, at illusion-outdoors.com.
There we go. Getting it out in the world.
And we'll get you that primetime system sent off.
Yep.
It's awesome.
So Cole Chapman. Is that what it was?
Chapman Cole.
Chapman Cole.
We don't know that's the user.
Could be.
Right on. Well, congratulations there. Make sure you comment boost on this YouTube video. And we'll get you in on that next drawing, next giveaway. Get out there, boost your plots, get your scouting in, get ready for the season because it's about here.
Go time.
If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. We appreciate it. Check out the Deer Society YouTube for all things coming, the film, hunt breakdowns. Check out the vlog. There's lots of cool stuff that's happening on the vlog side too. So appreciate you watching, and we'll see you here in a couple weeks for the start of the season.
The Deer Society podcast is brought to you by Illusion Hunting Systems, Onyx Hunt, Reveal Cellular Cameras, 10-Point Crossbows, Prime Archery, G5 Broadheads, Osseo Gear, Raw Frozen Scents, and HHA.